everybody, I hope you're having a nice day. I thought I'd do something different to this week and bring you along to my sewing. Today is a Tuesday, which means a working from home day, and on Tuesdays I usually do a lot of sewing, or I do writing or prep for Prima, whatever it is that are kind of my sort of more individual stuff. So I kind of take my business hat off and I get creative or whatever I need to be doing. But I haven't had many Tuesdays free recently because they've been taken up with shoots. So last week we had a shoot here at the house for something, and then the week before I was in Paris shooting. So I've had very little time to sew. So I have a massive backlog. But I am sewing frantically for this month so that I can get my makes ready to show you guys. And I thought that I would record me making one of them because I thought you might find that interesting. So I've got everything here on the table, which you can't actually see, it's out of shot the way I've done the frame, but I have my big sewing machine. Now this sewing machine is different from the last one, the last video I did, which was with the regular Janome 3 CXL 301. This one I borrowed. This is the big Betty, or Bertie I think we called her, but her technical name is, she's also a Janome. She's the Memory Craft 6600, and she's like a semi-professional, so she's really heavy duty, just really heavy, and she's absolutely amazing. So I've been really enjoying having her here because she doesn't get used that much at the shop, so we tend to take her out for events if we're doing monogramming, because she's got a monogramming option. But for just kind of plain sewing, it's so good because there's so many different options you can change. So this is my sewing machine of choice. And over there out of the shot, you can't see it, but I've got my Janome overlocker. I should tell you what the code is on that. For those of you, the name, C6234XL, which is great. These are the ones that we have in our shop. They're really good. And so over here on the table I have all my cut out pieces. What I'm going to be making with you today is the skirt that I talked about in my fabric haul for June, and it's this sort of embroidery anglaise cut out squares. And so I've got those pieces all cut out. I've got my pins, I've got my little scissors, I've got my concealed zip, I have my cup of tea, which I'm getting a bit nervous about because it's very close to my white fabric, but I'm going to take a sip. I made this about an hour ago, and whilst I was setting up I forgot to drink it, so I went and put it in the microwave. I don't know if any of you do that. I don't know if it's like tea suicide. It definitely doesn't taste as nice, and it certainly looks a bit worse, but it's better than wasting the cup of tea. I'm really fussy. I think I told you that once tea gets to like lukewarm temperature, you just can't drink it. Anyway, so we're making a gathered skirt, and the gathered skirt is going to be made out of so it's not a gathered skirt, it's a pleated skirt, and it's going to be made out of this cutaway fabric, which is the main fabric, and then I've cut out a plain cotton lawn to line it, because otherwise it would be see-through and I don't want to have that. So I'm going to start by marking all my pleats in, and I get really confused once I take the pattern piece off which direction you're meant to be marking the pleats, sort of having the pleats which direction they're going in. I've already forgotten it again. Fortunately I have the pattern here. The other thing that's always difficult when you're working with a fabric like a plain cotton, which doesn't have a sort of right side, wrong side, it's really easy to end up doing two lefts or two rights. So I always have to pop a pin in to show which is the right side. I'm going away next week again. So this year we decided it's going to be the year of holidays. So basically after our 3-week honeymoon, which was just the most amazing time ever, we realised how bad we've been at holidays over the past few years. And I mean, there's been a reason. It's been because I've been running the business and I haven't been able to afford both time or money to go away. And this year things have sort of, it's been 5 years since they set up the business, so it's easier now for me to go away. I have managers who can run the show. So yeah, we booked in a lot, more than maybe I should have, I don't know. But one of the girls at work was sorting out the holidays, and she sort of did a spreadsheet so we can track everyone's holiday. And she was like, oh Lisa, I've put a column in to track yours as well. And I was like, oh, we don't need to track mine. She's like, yes I know, but I thought it'd be funny to see how much holiday you've taken. It's like a cheeky little thing. But very funny as well, because I was like, I don't think I'll fill that in because I think everyone will feel depressed that I am going away so much. So on that note, I'm actually planning another trip to America at the end of September. And it's important to let you guys know because I'm going to organise a big meetup, I hope, in New York. So if any of you are watching this and you live in New York or near New York, pop the last weekend in September in your diaries as a potential. I haven't sorted anything out yet, but I'm going to speak to one of our stockists and see what I can sort out, because I thought it'd be really nice to take the opportunity to meet some of you over there if I can, and go fabric shopping together. So yeah, that will be fun. Okay, I've done those two. I'm going to put those to one side and I'm going to continue. Okay, I've done all my pinning. I realised how hard it was because of the way that this is cut out. It's a nightmare to find the notches. So now I should explain what I'm doing. So there's lots of ways on doing something like this. It's a bit like lace work where you can choose to mount your fabric. So say this is if we treat this as an interlining rather than a lining, so then you can mount it to your cutout fabric. And the kind of great thing about that is then you treat it as one piece of fabric. So you start off with all your pieces separately and you lay them with your cutout fabric or your lace with your backing fabric, your interlining, and so in my case my plain cotton lawn, and then you stitch round them within the seam allowance, so say 1 centimetre all around each piece, and then you start to put the garment together treating it as one piece. So that's one method. Another method is to create a second pattern for the interlining, so we don't necessarily need all these pleats, so you could just have a flared A-line skirt that had maybe some darts for the lining instead, and that would keep it flatter, certainly at the top. That's something to do if you're thinking about bulky fabrics. So say you've got a bulkier lace and maybe your lining's a bit heavier. If you were to pleat them both separately and then put them together at the waistband, you're going to get a lot of added bulk there. But I think that it's fine doing the way that I'm doing it. One of the reasons why I'm doing it this way is because I want the skirts to be separate at the hem. So I want my cutout fabric, my sort of embroidery anglaise, to hang lower than the other fabric, so that there'll be a bit of sheerness around my knees, so that there's sort of that pretty fabric. You can then see how pretty the fabric is with the sort of skin showing through, and therefore I need the two hems to be separate. So unless I do another pattern, which I don't have time to do, this is the only way of doing it. But I'm sure it'll be fine because I don't think any of these fabrics are too thick, so that when I put them together at the top, it'll be fine. So I'm going to stitch them as though they're two separate skirts. I'm slightly worried about putting the zip into this cutout fabric, so I'm not sure what I'll do there. I have actually made this skirt before, last year, I don't know if you remember, but I made it in a navy version of this, and I can't remember what I did. I'm just going to go with it and see. So a bit more tea, and then now I'm going to just stitch all my pleats in place. Okay guys, I've done all my pleats. I'm now just going to do my waistband. Not that I need to do that yet, but I'm just sort of doing all of the easy prep things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this. So I'm going to do what I was explaining earlier, where I'm going to stitch the plain fabric cotton lining to the outer fabric, so that when I'm making the waistband, I'm treating it as one. And I'm also going to interface the inside fabric, so the plain cotton, so that I give it a bit more stability and it doesn't stretch. I haven't told you what I'm wearing. I am wearing, this was a make, I think I showed you on one of my videos, but this was a make a while back with a bit of leftover fabric. It was from my bodice block from my book, so over at Vintage. which is the perfect project for leftover fabric, because it just makes a cute little top with less than a metre of fabric. Oh, I know one thing that I wanted to ask you guys. I want to film some more how-to videos because I know you found them useful. So could you let me know in the comments if there is any technique that you want me to show you? Okay, so that is fully pinned. I probably should have interfaced the other side before, but I'll interface it afterwards, it's fine. It won't matter that much. So I'm now just going to stitch that together with a centimetre seam allowance, and you can do this with a machine tacking length stitch, so you could do it with a long stitch length, but I don't know, there's not much gain by doing that. I mean, you just have to change your stitch length, so you can just carry on a normal stitch length. Okay guys, so I've put my interfacing on my waistband, and I've also pinned my side seams of both my inner skirt and outer skirt. My nose has started running. You can maybe hear that I've got a bit of a cold. Although like colds are, it's often like when they sound worse, you're usually starting to feel better. So I'm not feeling that bad, just a bit tired. But yeah, not enjoying having a blocked nose. Especially in the summer. Why do colds come in the summer? They should be winter only. They should be banned in the summer. Okay. So I'm just going to sew my side seams now. Okay guys, so I have now pinned the two layers together. So basically, whilst I wasn't filming, I overlocked the seams of my skirt, the inside skirt. So I overlocked the seams together at the side seams, and I overlocked the centre back seams separately because they haven't yet been stitched together. And then I just pressed open my seams on my outer skirt, and now I have pinned everything together. Now this is the important thing when you're pinning something like this together, because if this was a lining, you'd be pinning the two skirts wrong sides together. But because this is an interlining, we want the nice side of the interlining to be showing through. So when you can see in the little holes in the fabric, you see the nice side of the seams. So we're basically putting right side to wrong side, and that's what I've done there. So I'm going to now stitch them together with a centimetre seam allowance, so within my 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, and then I'll put my waistband on. So then I can start to treat them a little bit more like one skirt. So yes, that's the next stage. Okay guys, that's done. I had to change my needle in the middle of that because it was blunt, and I could hear it was blunt. So you can always tell a needle's blunt if you can hear it piercing through the fabric. And sometimes when they're blunt, they do miss stitches. So if your machine is ever missing stitches, it could be to do with the thread that doesn't like the type of thread, or that the needle's blunt. So it's always worth changing those before you get it checked out by a shop or someone. Okay, so now that's joined, and I can attach my waistband. Now this waistband I've done so that you basically, the waistband, the zip will go all the way up, because I prefer that to when an overlapping kind of waistband. Because if you do an overlapping waistband, you definitely need to put a skirt hook on rather than a popper, because they tend to then pop open. I've learned from experience. I'm carrying pins over here because I basically have them all there from where I was taking them out from the machine when I was sewing. So I'm pinning my waistband right sides together with the top of my skirt. I just had a manicure and I'm enjoying looking at my nice new nails whilst I sew. I really do get a lot of pleasure out of a manicured nail. I always go for shellac or gelish because anything other than that never lasts. But this time I get the odd pedicure, but not very often. But this time I needed desperately a pedicure, so I got a pedicure, and my toes match my nails, which also makes me very happy. Small things in life, eh? So I should tell you about my holiday next week. We're going to Italy, right to the south, to Puglia and Basilicata. I have a friend who lives in Basilicata, which is where we actually went in February. You may have seen some pictures of Italy on my Instagram feed back then. So we're going back to visit her, and we're also checking out the south of Italy, which we've never done before. So we normally go to the north, or at least to kind of Umbria and Perugia where I studied, and also to like Tuscany and round there. So it'd be nice to go to the south, although I'm slightly worried it's going to be very, very hot. It will be very, very hot, I'm sure. And yeah, I don't do brilliantly in super hot weather. Okay, I've stabbed myself. Am I bleeding? No. No, that's fine. I've ever told you my tip of bleeding on your garment? If you ever bleed on your garment, the best way of getting it out is your own saliva. So yeah, the enzymes in your own saliva will break down the blood and lift that stain. Right, that is ready to sew, although that looks a little bit bulked up there, but I need to be careful. There's so much pleats here. I'm going to take it nice and slowly so they don't accidentally catch in bits of the skirt that I'm not meant to. Oh, yes, yes, that looks good. Taking shape, waistband is on. So the next stage is to iron up the seam allowance towards the waistband, and to get rid of some of this bulk, so I'm going to trim that down, and then I'm going to iron down the top seam allowance, so that's 1.5 centimetres, and then I'll close the tabs. Oh no, I won't close the tabs, I've got to put the zip in. Oops. Yes, but I'll do my ironing. Okay, so now I'm putting my zip in. So this is a little bit fiddly because you've got the inner skirt and the outer skirt, and the zip's only going to go on the inner skirt. So what I already did is when I put the waistband on, I made sure that the inner skirt was folded back out of the way, so that when you're going to put the zip in, you're not going to catch that as well, because that will then mean you'll be able to fold it and hand stitch it to the back of the zip. So I've pinned that on one side, so I'm going to sew that in place first with regular zip foot, then with concealed zip foot. Okay, that's done. Bum bum bum. So I was worried that this fabric might not be strong enough to take the zip, but I think it is. If you're worried that your fabric isn't and you're making something like this, you can always put some interfacing on it, or you can just stitch a bit of ribbon or cotton tape to the seam before you put the zip in, and that just strengthens it. But this is fine, I'm happy with this. And it's also got a nice stable beginning where it's on the waistband at the top. So that's one side done. So what I'm going to do before I put the other side in is I always do this to match up if I've got a seam anywhere. So I've got the waistband seam where it meets the skirt. So I'm closing the zip and then I'm just snipping it at the point where it's lined up with the waistband on the other side of the tape, so that when I pin that on, I make sure that that lines up to the waistband on the other side, and therefore when you close your zip, the two waist seams align. That is the trick, to do it that way. Okay, so, and then I'll just do the same on this side. I also haven't told you about my glasses. I have glasses now. I was meant to wear glasses before, but I didn't wear them and I felt like the prescription was wrong, which it was. And now these ones are amazing because they are so much easier on the eye. So my eyes feel a lot less tired now when I use these. Okay guys, that is zip in. Let's turn it so I can see. Oh, there's so much fabric. Yes, my zip is in and my waist seam is aligning nicely, which I'm pleased about. So yeah, it's taking shape. You can see it's already looking like a skirt. And once I've hemmed the inside, then that will be sitting higher than that, and that will look really pretty. I actually have to stop now because something's come up, unfortunately. I've got to make a couple of phone calls, but just to tell you what I would do next, so the next stage would be closing the ends of the waistband, so stitching over those, then turning it back through and finishing the waistband by stitching this unstitched edge down. So you basically pin first from the inside so that you make sure that that's nicely aligned, and then you flip it over and you pin from the outside and stitch it in a sink stitch, so in between the waistband and the skirt, right on the seam, and stitch all the way around there, or you can slip stitch it closed if you prefer hand sewing. And then I just have to close up my centre back seam, so closing up separately, so close it up on the outer skirt, then on the inner skirt, and then I'll slip stitch the inner skirt to the zip here. Oops, looks like that's here, until there. That will be just folded over nicely there. And then the last thing I need to do is hem it, so I will probably just do a rolled hem on the overlocker on the inside skirt, and I'm going to leave the other skirt with the cut edge because I quite like that, or I might just do a rolled hem on that. We'll see what I think. It depends on how much it might fray. But there you go. Tune in next week to see it on me in its finished state. But that is it for this week. I will be recording my makes for June before I go away, so that the video will come out whilst I'm in Italy, so you guys don't miss out. But I hope you all have lovely weekends and weeks. And oh, before I go, I need to show you Poppy. She's had a haircut. I just woken her up from her sleep. Sorry, I feel like I'm always doing that. She used to, when I started saying hello everyone, she used to trot through, but not anymore. Here she is, summer haircut Poppy. So basically it took me 2 goes to get rid of this. I ended up just doing it myself because I couldn't get an appointment quick enough at a groomer's. And yeah, I didn't do it. It's not such a bad job. But she now looks like a little black lamb. She's so sweet. But yeah, much better for her, I think. I prefer her long haired because she's just more cuddly, but I obviously want her to be comfortable in the summer. Yeah? Yeah. Alright, Pops. Mwah. You can go back to sleep. Okay guys, I'll see you next week. Bye!